Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam ajma'een. Alhamdulillah, thank you for being here. Thank you MCC for hosting us. Alhamdulillah for this, inshallah, hopefully beneficial event here. The title of this talk is The Dark Side of Digital. And if you don't know us, you may think, these guys are so anti-technology. Like, what kind of title is that? And the book is called Digital Deceptions. But actually, that's not true. So, my undergrad was computer science and math. I work with technology every day at work. Dr. Ahmed, we're very fortunate to have Dr. Ahmed here. He oversees clinics. He writes books, mashallah, using technology. So we're not anti-technology. Don't worry. You can put that to rest, inshallah. But there's always two sides to every coin, right? So the benefits of technology are hopefully very clear to us. So what are some benefits that you guys know of technology, how you use technology?
Watching videos.
Watching videos, Islamic lectures perhaps. Yeah. What else? Just name them.
Connecting with others who are far away, like family or friends.
Family, friends, like-minded individuals, keeping good companionship over long distances. Wonderful. So hopefully it's very clear. Any other benefits that we want to name? Learning. Wonderful. So learning different things. You know. So all these are great technologies and great benefits we benefit from, which is wonderful. And we do the same thing. But when we look at Islamically at a topic, do we look only at benefits only? Is that the only thing we look at? No, right? We don't look at only benefits. We look at benefits and harms. And in the Arabic, it's called al-masalih and mafasid. So what are the advantages and the disadvantages of this issue? And then we come to some kind of solution, some kind of what do we do with this? So hopefully it's very clear. We're not into technology. We use it all day. We're here. We're using it. But it's something we want to also understand. What are the harms of the technology? So to share a little bit about that, I want to share a quick story of a girl named Kelly. She's 15 years old, very normal, happy girl, strong student. Her parents started noticing that she's getting a little more recluse, a little more to herself, staying in her room a lot, you know, not having as much interaction with her friends. And over time, grades started to slip and just getting more and more alone. And one day, things escalate. So with her parents, so there's things being thrown in the house. And to a point, which almost hard to say, it was pushing. And she hit her mother. So the father is there. This is now getting physical. So what do I do? So he had to call the police. So the police come. And with an ambulance, they put her in a gurney. You know what a gurney is? It's like a what's a gurney, doctor? Like a stretcher with wheels. And they wheel her out, and they have to evaluate her. A few days later, a psychologist asked her, what's going on here? Why all this emotional reaction? She said 5 words. They took away my phone. If you can believe it, that was the reason, which doesn't make a lot of sense, right? It's like, we live in the age of abundance. We have more money than ever. We have travel, technology, we have pharmaceuticals. We should be super happy. We have all the food we can ever want. And yet we're also in the age of suffering, anxiety, loneliness, depression, all these areas where we should be happy, but we're not. So inshallah, we're going to talk about why is that? And look in the brain. What's happening in the brain to someone who could be addicted to this technology? And why would someone create an addictive product like this? So I'll give Dr. Ahmed to take us, inshallah, what's happening in the brain.
جزاك الله خيرا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خيرا. Thank you all for being here. We want to, I think, first discuss one great misconception regarding our digital technologies and devices and platforms that we use. So what are we talking about here tonight? We're talking about digital technologies and platforms that offer us many benefits, right? So we have smartphones, we have tablets, we have social media apps, we have apps that we connect with people, communicate with people. So they provide many benefits, right? But at the same time, there are many real harms that we have to be aware of those real harms, okay? And I want you to first appreciate an important point and misconception here, that there's a conception, the misconception, that these devices are neutral, i.e. that I can use them for good, and they'll be good, and I can use them for bad, and they'll be bad. And sure, to a certain extent that's true, but I'll argue, and I hope you'll see here tonight as well too, that these devices are not neutral. I'm going to give you an example of something that is neutral. A hammer, I would tell you, is something neutral. You can use a hammer for good. You can use a hammer to build things, to help somebody fix things around their house, to build a shelter. You can use a hammer to hurt someone, right? So I would say a hammer is a neutral thing. Have you ever seen someone addicted to their hammer? Have you ever seen somebody wake up in the morning looking for their hammer? Have you ever seen somebody reach first thing in the morning after Salah looking for their hammer? Have you ever seen that? You haven't seen that. Because a hammer was not designed to be addictive. It's neutral. Now, let's take a smartphone. Have you seen somebody sleeping, clutching their smartphone? Maybe I've done that. Have you seen somebody first thing in the morning reaching for their smartphone? Maybe I've done that. Have you seen somebody after the salah looking for, getting nervous when their smartphone is not on them? These are signs of an addiction. So what I want you to appreciate here firstly is that these devices are not neutral. Inherently, yes, they can be used for good and bad, but inherently, whatever their use is, they are addictive by design. By design. And we're going to get into later why they've been made addictive. So I want us to understand something about addictions, because this is important for us as believers, as we engage in the digital world. And again, Allah created us here in the digital age, in the digital world. So we have to learn how we engage these devices in a way that we can utilize the benefits and minimize and avoid those harms as much as possible. But we have to understand what we're dealing with. And I wanted everybody to understand a little bit about addictions. When we think of addiction, what do you think of someone who's addicted to something? What do you think of? Like someone who's addicted to a drug, nasallahu salam and afiyah, or alcohol or something like that? What do you think of? What type of symptoms do they have? Nope, so we're a Mubarak group here. So what type of symptoms do you think of somebody with an addiction? Okay, restlessness, they're irritable, right? What else?
Helpless.
Okay, yeah, they're going to be like enslaved by other addiction. What else? Sorry, I have to call you. What else do you hear?
Having a lot of control.
Okay, good. Yes, symptom. Yes, correct. So they don't have really much emotional regulation. Okay, so all these definitely these are all symptoms of somebody with a drug addiction. Now, here's the interesting thing: these symptoms that you just mentioned, they're all the same symptoms in somebody with a smartphone addiction, with somebody with an internet addiction. Actually, there are people who get treated now to clinics to get treated for internet addiction disorder. Okay? Exact same symptoms. These are the same symptoms in somebody with a Candy Crush addiction, with an email addiction, with a WhatsApp addiction, with a TikTok or Instagram addiction. The symptoms are the same. Why? Because the addiction is the same. I want you to know whether it's an addiction to cocaine, alcohol, drugs, or behavioral addiction to gambling, or an addiction to my smartphone, or social media, or chatting, or emails, what's happening in the brain is all the same. I want us to understand something about addictions and the brain. So there's a hormone in the brain called dopamine. Dopamine is a hormone that helps us, Allah created this hormone as a means of us feeling a sense of satisfaction and pleasure when we engage in a healthy behavior, right? So you go for a walk, you see a sunset, you spend time with some friends, you have enjoyable conversation, then there's a release of dopamine and you feel good about that, right? And that's a good thing, that's a healthy thing, okay? Now what happens with an addictive behavior? Addictive behaviors, what they do is they'll access the reward center of the brain directly in a way that's unchecked. So now what happens is there's a huge rush of dopamine that gets released with an addictive behavior, more than a normal healthy behavior would have done, okay? So someone engages in an addictive behavior. Addictive behaviors are all the same. Right? So whether that's Candy Crush, whether that's Facebook, whether that's TikTok, whether that's checking my messages, these are all addictive behaviors, right? If they're not done in a proper manner, what's going to happen is those behaviors are these addictive, unhealthy behaviors will access the dopamine reward pathway of the brain directly, and there's this huge surge of dopamine, more than your brain would have gotten from the normal healthy behavior. Now, what do you think will happen when you want to feel relaxation and satisfaction? Do you think your brain is going to take you to making dhikr or going for a walk that releases this amount of dopamine, or to go to this addictive behavior that's going to produce maybe 10 times the dopamine? What do you think is going to happen? Your brain is going to take you to the addictive behavior. So I want you to see how little by little, the more you engage in addictive behaviors, it pulls the brain now, it pulls you to those behaviors more and more. And in the brain there are what's called like neural pathways, like highways if you will. The more you access certain parts of your brain, the stronger those pathways get. The less you access certain pathways in the brain, the more those pathways atrophy, and it's harder to access. So it becomes more and more difficult to engage in healthy behaviors, or those healthy behaviors no longer release dopamine as much as these addictive behaviors. So now maybe you can understand this is even more so. This is more so apparent in young children. So when you take a child who's been exposed to video games and digital media and these things for hours at a day, and then you take him to a park and you want to play with them, catch or something, what do you think the first thing they say? Dad, this is boring. This is boring. You're right. Because physiologically it is for them. Physiologically, their brain, you think, what's wrong with you? Why are you being like this? It's so physiologically, his brain cannot release dopamine because it's changed. Okay, now the good thing, we'll talk later, the good thing is the brain has neuroplasticity. This change can be undone. But I want you to know what's happening when you see this. That's why it creates this apathy. You see now in kind of this young generation, sometimes you see this apathy, right? And things that you would have thought were amazing and great experiences, and they just do nothing for them. And that's because of these changes that are happening in the brain. What I want you to know, so this process, this hijack of the reward pathway, this is called the dopamine hijack. I want everybody to understand this process. It's called what? The dopamine hijack. Okay, you guys understand this, so you can teach this to other people. That's the first important point regarding addictions, and especially addictions to our digital devices. Another important aspect that we have to know is that digital devices, the more time we spend on our screens and engaging in them in an addictive manner, they have a direct effect on a critical part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex, the nasia, right? This is the front part of the brain. This does important critical functions, okay? So this, for example, this is important for emotional regulation, right? For inhibitions, for being able to plan, to weigh short-term gain and long-term gain, for executive functioning, strategic planning, so I can plan, okay, I have to do A and then B and then C. These are critical functions as an adult. So addictive behaviors, whatever addictions they are, addictions to Candy Crush, to social media, to Facebook, whatever they are, will cause atrophy of the frontal cortex, prefrontal cortex. Atrophy meaning shrinkage, meaning weakening of the prefrontal cortex. That's pretty serious. I mean, that's a direct change of the brain, physiological change of the brain from these devices that we use all the time. Now, if we're saying that, then we have to ask the question, well, at what age does the prefrontal cortex fully develop? I would never want to interfere with the development of this critical part of the brain in my children, right? What age does the prefrontal cortex fully develop? Anybody know? What would you guess? You're right, between 20 to 25. I want you to imagine what happens when I'm giving my 8-year-old, my 10-year-old a smartphone, when they're on hours at a day. What's happening to their prefrontal cortex that's not fully developed yet? What am I doing? What are we doing? These are real physiological changes that we have to be aware of. Again, our discussion here today is not a discussion against technology. We use this. Our discussion, Allah put us in the digital age. Our discussion here is a discussion of the believers who must be at the forefront of seeing the reality of the world for what it is, and to analyze things, and to weigh masalih and mafasid, as Ustadh Arfan mentioned, benefits and harms, and to look at everything with a rational and spiritual lens, and then we make a decision of how we engage things in a way that's not going to interfere with our journeying and preparation for our meeting with Allah, right? So that's what our discussion is about. Okay, so that's the prefrontal cortex. I want everybody to remember this point as well about addictions and increased use, increased time in front of screens. All right. Another thing that we maybe we'll get more into the Q&A is that, and this was mentioned in a great, excellent book. I recommend everybody to read this book. It was written maybe over 30 years ago now, maybe more. It's called The 4 Arguments for the Elimination of Television. It's an excellent book by Jerry Manders, I believe. Jerry Mander, yeah. So he mentions also that looking at an image at a screen will actually bring it about a passive state in a person's brain. That image will bypass a person's conscious frontal lobe and be processed by their subconscious, and that actually causes changes of the brain waves in the brain, from active beta waves to passive alpha and delta waves. We'll get into that maybe more during the Q&A, but there are actually, I just want us to know that just staring at a screen, at digital imagery, changes the brain waves of a brain. Okay, so this is an important thing. Another important, I think, misconception that we need to break here in our discussion is this myth of multitasking. So we think this is like, so you get it like an application, and then it's like, oh yeah, I'm very good at multitasking. So I see that, I'm like, oh no, okay, that's so multitasking is actually a myth. So when you think you're multitasking, your brain is not multitasking. Your brain does not consciously focus on one thing at a time. So if there's these three things here, okay, the brain does not focus on these three things simultaneously with a conscious effort. No, that's not what happens. What the brain actually does is the brain will bounce its attention every microsecond. So your brain, when you think you're multitasking, your brain is doing this. It's just bouncing its attention. It's fragmenting its attention. So these devices are designed for you to multitask. We'll talk why that is. They're designed to be addictive, to pull you to do everything possible through these devices for a certain reason we'll get into later. So they habituate us to multitask throughout our day. So that's what we're doing all the time, right? I'm on a phone call, but I can't just be on a phone call. I'm wasting my time. I can be checking an email while I'm on a phone call, but that's a waste of time too. I can also be listening to something, right? I can be replying to this chat, right? This is how we start to think. This is how we behave. I've habituated myself to multitask. Now, what do you think will happen when I come to try to do one thing at a time? When I come to try, for example, to focus on a conversation with somebody, or to focus in class, or to focus in my dhikr or salah, do you think I've habituated my brain to multitask and fragment its attention for 12 hours of the day? Do you think I will be able to stop it for 5 minutes to focus on one thing? I will not be able to. I hope you also are seeing that our inability to manage our devices properly have a spiritual effect on us, have an effect on our salah, on our khushu', on our dhikr, because we cannot focus. We've trained ourselves not to focus on one thing, right? So this is a myth that we also need to break. That the brain does not focus on multiple things at one time. So multitasking is a myth. All right. Another important harm, real harm, that I think everybody should know by now, is that, and this is known now. I mean, a few years ago, this was maybe there's a correlation. That's not what doctors say anymore. Now it's clear. Doctors clearly say this, that more time in front of screens, more time on social media equals more depression, more anxiety, increased suicidality rates. This is now known medically. So as believers, we have to know this. What am I doing? It's not, I can't just say, well, it's what's the harm? It's okay. He's just chatting on hours of a day. What's that doing? What's that doing? I want to read this quote by the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Murthy. He said, "We are in the middle of a national youth mental health crisis, and I'm concerned that social media is an important driver of that crisis, one that we must urgently address." Dr. Murthy, over a year ago, the cigarette labels, they have a warning label. The cigarettes, they have like a warning label, this may cause cancer. Dr. Murthy recommended that social media comes with a warning label, that this can cause mental illness. I want you to think how serious that is. That's a serious statement to say. And I'm just leaving my child unchecked, not knowing this is known medical correlation. I'm going to give you some alarming statistics. In the last 15 years, there's been, and this is the time that correlates with smartphones and social media, there's been a 150% increase in depression in teens. The rates of suicide are increasing in young girls, ages 10 to 14. I want you to think, a young girl, 10 to 14, in the United States, most privileged girl in the world, what worry and care could she have? The rates of suicide have tripled in this age group. Now, you may think this is what non-Muslims deal with. We don't deal with this in the Muslim community. Your needy brother here is visiting from South Florida. In our Muslim cemetery, last year, 20% of the deaths were from suicide. 20% of the burials in that cemetery were from suicide. Now that might have been an anomaly that year, but that's serious now. So this is not a joke now. This is not, well, what's the harm? Just let them. People are dying. Young children, adults, elderly are taking their lives. This is doing something with the brain that we have to know as believers, as rational, spiritual believers. There's something going on here. I'll give you a few more statistics also. These devices, social media use, average person, a teenager will spend more than 5 hours on social media. At least, studies have shown more than 2.5 to 3 hours doubles the rates of depression. Increased risk of disruptive behavior disorders such as conduct disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, of course, cyberbullying, eating disorders. I want to read another quote from Dr. Resnick, who's the president of the American Medical Association. He said, with near universal social media use by America's young people, these apps and sites introduce profound risk and mental health harms in ways we are only now beginning to fully understand. As physicians, we see firsthand the impact of social media, particularly during adolescence, a critical period of brain development. This is serious, my dear brothers and sisters. We have to be aware of this. Again, what is our discussion here? Hide in a cave, not use technology? No. We must engage the time that Allah created us in it. Allah created us in the digital age, but we have to engage it in a way where we are aware of these real harms and take some action and make some changes, especially in our youth and in us as adults as well too. All right, there's another thing that we have to mention here too, just in passing. And I think this discussion is a similar discussion of what happened with asbestos. When we started to put it as insulation for all the houses. And then people started getting lung cancer. We only found it later because we were only looking at a certain part of the discussion of, oh, it has this benefit. And we didn't look at it in its totality, right? Or lead in pipes, right? They used to have lead in the water pipes. We had that incident in Michigan also recently. And so this is like a neurotoxin now. It's causing neurological damage in children, right? And or the Mad Hatter, if you remember the Mad Hatter, that in the tales of the Mad Hatters, because they used to the people who used to make hats, they would use mercury to make the hats, and they found that it was neurotoxic later. So what is happening there is the same thing that's happening here. Is that we're looking at one piece of something and the benefit of something, and we're oblivious now to taking the time before we engage to look at the harms. We are swimming, my dear brothers and sisters, in an ocean day in, day out, of electrical magnetic frequency, EMF radiation. What is the effect on this? Is anybody thinking about this? That we are swimming in an ocean of EMF radiation. What is the effect on our bodies? What is the effect when my child is holding an iPad 6 inches from their face? What is the effect on that? What is the effect of Bluetooth devices? That we have our Bluetooth AirPods, Bluetooth. What is the effect of those devices? Those emit a huge amount of EMF radiation. What are the effects? We are only now seeing the effects of these things. There's different types of EMF radiation. We don't have time to get into it right now, but there's different types of EMF radiation. I want you guys just to be aware that there's magnetic fields, there are electrical fields, and there's radio frequency fields. And these type of EMF radiations are emitted from different devices. I'll tell you, for example, some of the high emitters in our homes, not just our electrical circuits around us, not just the light bulbs that we use, Bluetooth devices, Wi-Fi routers, our cell phones, laptops, our iPads. All these things are emitting huge amounts of EMF radiation, and these are having some negative consequences. Doctors are now correlating. All right, we don't have any definitive studies now, but correlations of increased inflammation of the body, weakening of the immune system, cancers, fatigue, chronic pain syndromes, cardiovascular issues. There's so many things now we're learning now, just like the asbestos, just the lead pipes, because we're only looking at a piece of this discussion. Okay, so now we'll talk maybe in the Q&A about some things. What can we do? We have to utilize these devices, some basic things that we can mitigate the harms of EMF. In general, I'll just tell you 2 right now, is to create some distance, to decrease the time in front of these devices and create some distance from these devices. We'll talk more in the Q&A about that. So these are things I just want us to realize about some of the real harms. Of course, we can't deny, no one can deny also the spiritual harms that come with our unmitigated access to these devices and platforms. I mean, I'm going to ask everybody a question. And I don't want you to raise your hand because it's going to be everybody. How many of us have gone online and seen some impermissible image? Don't raise your hand because it's every single person here. It's every single person here. How many of our children have gone online and seen something haram? Don't raise your hand because it's every single child. What is that doing to us day in, day out? What are we doing to mitigate this? How is that affecting us spiritually? The Prophet ﷺ said that every time that the son of Adam commits a sin, there's a black spot that's placed in his heart. And as he continues to do that, creates a darkness over his heart. And the nur of Allah is blocked. How do we connect with the words of Allah? How can we connect with the love of Allah, with the love of the Prophet ﷺ, when we're being exposed to this and we're not doing anything about it? And I think I can just give my son or daughter a phone and think they're going to be strong enough to withstand now the psychological pressure of these addictive devices and withstand all the impermissible things at their fingertip? Is that responsible parenting for me to leave my child at bedtime with a smartphone in their hand to access all of the haram in the world? Is that responsible parenting? It's not responsible parenting. We have to do something different. What are we doing? What's my purpose in life? To prepare my heart for the meaning of Allah. These devices are a great means to the impermissible. Of course, we're not saying don't use them, but we have to do something different. We have to use them in a different way. I want Sidi Arfan to talk to us before Maghrib a little bit, and we'll continue after Maghrib, of why these companies have created products, applications, devices. Why have they created these devices to be so addictive? What's their end game? What's their agenda?
So hopefully it's very clear now. This is not a light issue. This is not something where, okay, it's not a big deal. You're overreacting. Some pretty serious consequences from this issue. But back to the question of, okay, that's what's happening. It's clear. It's undeniable. Why, though? Why would some people create an addictive product intentionally? So we'll take an example here. This is just an example of an individual. We'll call him Yusuf, okay? And he's a customer looking to solve a problem. And he wants to, go to maybe Best Buy and pick out a phone and a tablet and some devices. So first thing he does is he picks up a piece of hardware, right? You need hardware and software. So he picks up maybe a device from Best Buy. This device, let's say, is a phone. And this phone, anybody know how many sensors are on a phone? These days, modern phone? How many you think? 5? Yeah? 6? How about 19? How about an accelerometer? And all these other things I can't even name because I can't even say them. But all these different sensors are in this product, but Yusuf needs it. He's not going to get a phone. He needs a phone to survive, so he gets a phone. And it has all these sensors. But he looks at Best Buy. Wait, the coffee machine has a Wi-Fi enabled. So is the vacuum cleaner, and so is all these other devices. He notices, the refrigerator can order from Whole Foods automatically. That's interesting. That's convenient. That's actually super helpful. Okay, got it. Interesting. But he gets distracted. So that goes back to, I got to get a phone. I'm distracted here. I got to go back to this phone. So he gets the phone, and he, of course, has to have some hardware plus software. He needs to have something on it to run any application. So he gets download some apps. And these apps now, as he uses them, creates what? What does it create when he uses the phone with an app software? What does that produce? Data. Okay. A little bit of data? A lot of data. So it creates this big vat of data, and so much that I imagine at one point there was a meeting between marketing and engineering in some big company. And the engineer has in front of him his computer and all this data coming down, and the marketer says, "What's on your screen?" So it's metadata. It's just junk. People are using our stuff, and we know where they are and what they're looking for. They're searching. It's just a bunch of metadata. I'm going to delete it. He's about to press delete. What does the marketer say? Stop! Don't delete that. That's not junk. That's a gold mine. Who's going to pay to know every place you are, every search term you've used, every single person you know, every comment you've made? This is very valuable. don't delete that. This is a treasure trove. So the engineer doesn't delete it. He says, okay, what do you have in mind? The marketer says, let's hire 1,000 psychologists in behavioral design to see how we can make this even more addictive. Because they're more addicted, more usage, more data, more money. So how does that now lead to the next piece here? So who would love to have this data? Who would be salivating? It's like, oh, I want this data. Give it to me. Give me Who would benefit from this? What was it? What do you guess? Businesses, companies would love to have that information. Very valuable. I can now sell to you because I know exactly how your profile, your level of thinking, what are you looking for, what's your goals in life. I can now profile you, right? That's a benefit, right? Who else could benefit from this data? Bad actors, criminals would love to know your social security number and your phone number and your address, and that's very valuable. Who else? Anybody else? So governments would love to know what a population is thinking and what they're saying and what they're talking about, because what can I do if a government knows that? I can control. I can surveil. I can control. Very, very interesting. Anybody else? Okay, so we named criminals. What is that?
Criminals, hackers.
Hackers. So there's, and we're going to talk about 5 agendas here. There's 5 entities that are benefiting from this big vat of information that we give and create in this treasure trove. Criminals. Second are companies. So there's a consumer agenda to benefit from this data. Third, we'll talk about, of course, the future technology, AI. Everyone's talking about it. We've got to discuss it. This is training, the next technology that's coming, and it's here. Ideologies. Wouldn't it be helpful to have now billions of people I can push things to? I can push images and memes and quotes. And if I want to get a certain idea out there, wow, unprecedented access to influence billions of people with a click of a button. And finally, governments. So we're going to talk about a couple of these right now, just for time purposes. But there are 5 agendas. If we had more time, we'll go through each one of these. We'll go through, inshallah, a couple of these. So the question here now, we said Yusuf, Miskeen, right? He's a customer. He wanted to get a phone. That's all he wanted. Is Yusuf the customer? Who's benefiting the most here? Is it Yusuf? Ooh, it's not Yusuf. So we can't call Yusuf the customer. Okay, wait a minute. If Yusuf, who's the customer if Yusuf not the customer? All these entities are benefiting more than Yusuf. Then what's Yusuf? Yusuf is the product. How interesting. This doesn't make any sense. He came out, he's just, customer's got money, he's paying. No. He's the product. Okay. We're going to try a little chant here. This is going to be a fun chant. I think it's fun. You might not think it's fun. It's okay. I'll point to this side of the room, sisters, and some of the brothers here. And I want to point to you. You're going to say the word free. Okay? That's your word. Don't mess this up. A lot of pressure. Free. Brothers and some sisters, the word's going to be me. Okay? M-E, me. We're going to practice here. All right, ready? Ready? No, sorry. You guys got to give me a little more cadence and a little more punch. All right? Ready? Better?
Me.
You guys got better than that. Okay, excellent. So, how much is Instagram? You got to do better than that. Come on. How much is Instagram? Who's the product? Interesting. How much is TikTok? Who's the product? Okay. Huh. How much is Facebook? Who's the product? Interesting. I didn't know that. And I hope we remember, we're the product. You are creating the data that is other entities are benefiting from. So let's now dig in to a few of these where, again, these entities are making money and they're gaining power through this data. So it's not just, okay, data. All right. AI, of course, future technology. There's 3 stages to AI. We're currently in, it's called artificial narrow intelligence. I'm sure the engineers here that can talk about this much more intelligently. But right now, our cars can drive themselves. Go to SFO, they'll drive us. You know, we have self-driving cars. That's the artificial narrow intelligence, doing something very specifically, but very well, and sometimes better than humans. Okay. The next stage is called artificial general intelligence, and the idea here is when machines and computers can do anything a human could do, a machine could do. That's when we kind of cross this chasm of artificial general intelligence. Now, as Muslims, do we think a machine can do everything a human could do as Muslims? No. What can a machine not do, ever? What's an example of that? Great answer. A machine can't pray. Of course, they can do it through the motions, right? But that's not what prayer is, just through the motions, right? Excellent. What else? Anything else?
Have a moral compass about what it's doing.
Okay, so morality and an ethical kind of framework of making certain decisions. As Muslims, you know, we don't believe that they can ever do that. But everything else, you know, hypothetically, if they could drive and cook and do all the other things, then that's AGI. The last step is artificial superintelligence, when machines can do everything a human can do, but much, much better. So that's when it surpasses it. So interesting, we're now in narrow intelligence. Any guesses on when we get to AGI? This is the famous question. Any guesses? How many? 2037. Okay, that's a good guess. Very, very interesting. I love it. So we don't know, but it's much closer than it was 3 years ago. We know that. And it's getting much faster. So here's the issue on entering the age of AI. So this curve here represents a type of growth. There's linear growth and there's exponential growth. Let's talk about linear growth. Let's say I'm going to ask our math majors here, okay, or my investment majors. I'm going to give you $100. I want 10% back, linear growth, okay? $100, 10% year one. How much money do I get back? You got this. What is it? Great. So I have 110 back now, right? I gave you 100, 10% linear growth, 110. Year 2, what do I get? Okay. So I'm growing linearly, right? Exponentially, year 1, what do I get? Exponential growth of 10% a year. 110 in the first year, right? Year 2, is it 120 or 120? Is it linear? It's not linear, right? Now we're going to get to a point where we're growing exponentially. So to say that we're getting ready for a time of things that we can't even imagine yet, that's coming, right? So it's coming very, very fast. There's so many use cases to AI that we can't even imagine, which is, one of them is companionship. So Dr. Ahmed here is from Florida, and one of the cities in Florida, Orlando, which many of you know, been Disney World, is there was a boy, about 15 years old, his name is Sewell. He was on the basketball JV team. He was very close to friends and family, and really good kid. Over time, notice getting more recluse, staying in his room more. I see a pattern here. His mother finds out he's using a website called Character.ai and interacting with a chat bot, pretending to be a queen on a show online. And starts and goes and goes and goes until one day, quote unquote, falls in love with a machine. The final words on the screen was, from the discussion, was, "Please come home, my sweet king," before he killed himself. True story. So we need to think about, again, what is happening, what's coming, how do we prepare ourselves for what's coming? So inshallah, we're going to take a break for Maghrib. Inshallah,
We're continuing with our part 2 of our session, the dark side of digital. We're talking about that we do recognize that the digital technologies and devices and platforms that we have provide us many benefits in our lives. We've talked about that in the first part of our lesson and discussion tonight. But we're saying that they also come with some real harms. And we need to be aware of those real harms so that we can now use these devices in a different way. We can learn some healthy digital habits that we can take advantage of these benefits while we minimize these harms for ourselves, our families, and our children. And we left off in our discussion about how these devices are actually used to feed data to AI, and what people are doing with artificial intelligence, where that's headed. And so Ustadh Arfan will continue this discussion for us. And we'll have time after we finish this section for your discussion and your questions and your insight to this important topic. Jazakumullah khairan.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam ajma'in. So we ended talking about of all these entities that are benefiting from the data that we're giving. One of them is training the next evolution of technology, which is AI. We talked about some of the potential harms that we're seeing already with that. Another harm is AI is being embedded in the future of warfare. So this is a picture of a robot dog. My family and I went to Toronto. We went to a museum and we saw this program, and this robot dog was there, and it was doing tricks and flips and super cute. Anybody seen this dog before? No? Okay, super cute dog. You can give it a command, it'll do these tricks. Now, what do you do when you add a machine gun to that, and thermal cameras, and an ability to make autonomous decisions on who and when to fire, and you have facial recognition? Not so cute anymore, right? So luckily, this kind of technology, I mean, who's going to be so brutal as to use technology this powerful against a defenseless population? Come on. No one's ever going to do that, right? Hopefully you sense the sarcasm. So it's being used, AI is being used to surveil, to control, to test weapons against defenseless populations right now. So this is not a 20 years down the line thing. This is we're going to test this, and in this, this is an example of the Palestine laboratory of how you test technology at the forefront, and that gets exported out to other countries. We can go on and on the use of this technology and what's being done there. But suffice to say, it is coming, it is here, and this is an evolution of how warfare will be done going forward, unfortunately. Now, there are also a set of, other than specific warfare, of usage of surveillance and control. Who here has heard of the word Pegasus? Okay, what is Pegasus? Anybody?
Israeli owned company, I believe. That
Correct.
Can take over any smartphone and pretty much see whatever's on it and monitor.
So very interesting. So the subtitle of this is perfect. The story of the world's most dangerous spyware is a subtitle of this book. And it is, to Brother Munir's point, zero-click access to everything on your phone. If you think about that, and the way it's being used and has been used against individuals, against journalists that were killed, this is the reality. This is how it's being used. And it's unfortunately also being used in other parts of the world that being exported from this country to other parts of the world. So if you think about, we just witnessed a modern genocide. 2,000-pound bombs raining down on children. AI is not going to make this any easier. It's going to advance this to a point of brutal efficiency where we haven't seen that before. So That's where this is going, unfortunately. So if we think about all these agendas of the criminal agenda, the consumer agenda, the control surveillance agenda, the AI agenda, their goals of these entities are different than your and my goal. As Dr. Howeedy mentioned earlier, our goal is to prepare us and our hearts for the meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that's not their goal. What is their goal? They want us distracted, being passive over consumers, like we're in a buffet. I'm going to binge watch hours and hours. That's a passive over consumer. Dependent, vulnerable, surveillance, addiction, greed, living virtually, escaping responsibility, hyperstimulation, and disconnecting with the divine. That's what their goals are. Are these your goals? I hope not. Right? That's not your goals. What are your goals? Yours is you want to be able to focus when you want to focus. Controlling your ability to stay into khushu' in your prayer, or focus on your studies, or be productive at work. That's great. Self-restrained, critical thinker, competent and capable. Privacy. That is not a bad word. Someone says, I've nothing to hide. Okay, we can hold a whole discussion on this topic, but privacy is inherent to our deen, and we need to be able to maintain that. Freedom, contentment, living in reality, not virtually, accepting responsibility, stillness. If I want to be still in khushu', and that's very difficult when, as Dr. Ahmed mentioned, we're fragmenting our attention, going from this to this to this and back, training our attention for fragmentation, not for focus, and reconnect with the divine. That's our goals. So we have to know that sometimes entities will push us in a certain direction, kind of like a sailboat, the wind pushes in a certain direction, but we should know that's not a direction we want to go. I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to push against the stream to get to where I want to go. So there is hope. You may think, these guys are so depressing. They just came here and told us and just made us depressed for the whole time. There is hope. There are things we can do, and inshallah, we're going to talk about that right now, inshallah.
So absolutely, there are many things that we can do. We have to realize that the Prophet ﷺ said, لِكُلِّ دَاءٍ دَوَاءٍ, for every ailment, there's a remedy. And Allah created us in the digital age. The Prophet ﷺ, he taught the Sahaba the dangers around them, and they didn't go hide in a cave, but they faced those challenges and those difficulties and problems through the Quran and Sunnah and the principles of the Sharia, and they overcame those difficulties, right? And they became successful in their endeavors, in their religious endeavors and worldly endeavors. So similarly, Allah created us here in the technological age, the digital age. We've mentioned some of the real harms, and some of these are very serious things we've talked about. But at the same time, there's many things that we can do to mitigate and minimize these harms while we engage in these technologies. So I want to mention here, firstly, some habits that every believer should have in the digital age. So these are just, we just mentioned, I think, 5 or 6 here together. There's many more. But these, I think, for any adult, and as adults we have to teach our children these habits of living in the digital age, okay? For our mental well-being, our spiritual well-being, physical well-being. Number one important habit in the digital age is something called batching. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the opposite of batching, so you can understand this concept. So if you need to buy something from the supermarket, let's say you needed ketchup, okay, and you go and drive to the supermarket and come back, and then you said, oh, we forgot the halal hamburger buns. So you're gonna go and drive and get the hamburger buns. Oh, I forgot the halal ground meat. So you're gonna go and drive, get the ground meat, and come back. Oh, but we forgot the and you just keep. Is this how you shop from the supermarket? You don't do that. What do you do? What do you do? You make a list and you have your day that you go to the supermarket, right? Okay, except on certain occasions. So you have a list and you go on that. It's much more efficient, right? That's called batching. So what you just did there, that's called batching. The opposite of that, it's so inefficient. Okay, I want you to think of somebody who goes to the mailbox waiting for a letter. Do you go every 10 minutes, run to the mailbox and come back and run and come back and run? And if you saw that, you'd say, I think maybe this person has a problem. Maybe you're addicted, right? Do we do that with our phone? Am I checking every 10, 15? It's so inefficient. You're wasting so much time, Okay, so studies have shown every time that you divert your attention and focus from a task you're working on to something else, it takes you 20 minutes to come back and refocus. Imagine when I keep doing that. You're wasting so much time. So you have to batch your digital tasks, just like that supermarket list. Just when you go to the bank, you have a day you go to the bank, you have a certain time in a day you check the mailbox. You have to do this with your digital tasks. So what does that mean? That means, okay, I'm not going to check my email every minute. I have certain times I do that. I'm going to batch my emails. So I'm going to check it at certain times. I'm going to check it maybe at 10 a.m., at 2 p.m., and at 4 p.m. Put it in your calendar. That's how I do it. And besides, I'm not going to miss anything. You're not going to miss a thing. Okay, you'll catch everything. And the less you can do that, the better. I'll tell you, some people who are very efficient, there's a book called The 4-Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss. Maybe some of you read this great. I recommend this book. It's an excellent book. He's a multimillionaire, owner, CEO of many companies, and he's batched his emails to once a week. That's how efficient he is, once a week. Okay, so create a system for yourself, for your emails and for your messages. You don't have to check WhatsApp every ding. You don't have to check your iMessage every ding. You're wasting your time. It's inefficient, and you're strengthening the addiction in your brain. Every time you just go and listen to that, you're strengthening the addiction. To counter that is you have to say to yourself, no, not now. I have a time I'm going to do that. Now you're going to minimize the addictive behavior. Now you're going to be much more efficient in your tasks. Okay? That's called batching. Is that clear, everybody? This is an essential task. As adults, we have to do this. We have to teach this to our kids. So what do? I set times for my emails. Maybe if I'm even more efficient, I start setting days for my emails. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are my email days. Whatever you do. Same thing for your messages, your social media account, maybe news. Maybe you want to catch up on the news. It's not every 5 seconds. You're going to get addicted to it. Okay? And that's what they want you to do. Just batch the times you check your news. You just need to do it once a day, twice a day max. All right, that's batching. So that's the first digital habit that we have to have. The second is unbundling. So developers of these technologies and applications, they want you to be glued to your device. They want these devices to be everything for you. So my cell phone is the way I communicate to people. It's the way I learn about my deen. It's how I learn Quran. It's how I chat to people. It's how I check my bank account. It's everything. So it's always on you, right? That's going to create more addiction, more data, all these harms that we talked about, all right? So what I have to do is unbundle, okay? I have to do the opposite. That means it's going to be a little bit less convenient, but it's going to be healthier for my brain. So very easy thing. This is something each of us should do. Very easy. I need to unbundle my phone and my alarm clock. My phone doesn't, that's the easiest thing I would recommend for everybody. My phone should not be my alarm clock. Because if I'm sleeping next to my phone, guess what? You're going to reach for it for everything else. And you're just strengthening that addiction. And it's going to interfere with your sleep, of course. So very easy. Everybody here. Homework for everybody. For you and your kids, buy an old school alarm clock. Okay? Put it next to you. Don't have your phone as that's an example of unbundling. I'll show you some examples I've done. You don't have to do this. See what works for you. So my MP3 player is not my phone. So this is my MP3 player. Okay? This is my MP3 player. This is my recorder. I can't get on the internet with it. I can only do two things. I can listen and I can record. That's it. So I'm not going to I can't check my WhatsApp from here. If I feel that itch, I can't. Okay? That's healthier for you. Okay? Here's my clock. All right? Here's my clock. Here's my calendar. All right? Now you don't have to do this, but I'll tell you, my calendar never runs out of battery. But here's my calendar. All right? So these are examples. These are some examples that you can do to unbundle. And and many more. And we can talk about that later. So unbundling is another important digital habit. The third thing is avoiding multitasking, as we talked about. Okay, so we want to habituate our brain to focus on one thing at a time. Okay, and I need to train my brain to do this. This is going to be very difficult. This is one of the most difficult things. The internet is just a world of distraction. It's made to be that way. Okay, your cell phone is just it's a technological device to distract you. Okay, so you're going to really have to fight to practice to do one thing at a time. Practice this with your conversations. When you're talking to somebody, put everything away and just focus on talking to them. Right? When you're sitting to check your email, don't have anything else. Get in and get out. Just check your email and get out. When you're doing an assignment, put your phone away, put everything away, and to sit there and work for that half an hour. We need to practice to avoid multitasking. All right. The fourth digital habit that we have to work on is creating friction, meaning that addictions will pull you. Sometimes they're going to get weak. So I have to put some friction between myself and these addictive devices. Okay, that means maybe while I'm working, I'm going to put my cell phone in a drawer far away. So I won't have that itch to go reach for it. Okay, that's an example of creating some friction. Okay, there's many other things that you can do. A fifth is limiting interruptions. So when I do a task, I have to limit all interruptions and just focus on that one task. So if I'm going to be working on a school assignment, for example, I'm going to sit for half an hour, maybe I'll set my timer, and I'm going to put my phone away. No one can reach me, no one can call me, and I'm going to focus and just do that one thing. So limiting my interruptions. And lastly, for the health of my brain, to help redirect those neural pathways to heal from that dopamine hijack. The brain can do that. I need to engage in periods of digital detox. I have to give my brain a break. Okay? So that might mean that I have a certain afternoon in the week where there's a screen-free afternoon for me. Maybe it's on Jummah. Maybe Jummah is your screen-free day. Or maybe it's on Saturday. Maybe every once in a while you take your family for a retreat, a trip, and it's a screen-free trip. All right? So you have to give your brain times for digital detox. All right. So these are some basic digital habits. There's some more, and we'll have some more discussion on this through the Q&A.
So the question for those of us that are parents, here's our parent. Okay, a lot of parents in the room. Okay, so your question, of course, now is, okay, I got it. I understand. There's some harms, there's benefits. I'm going to work on myself. I know we're all going to say that, right? I'm working on myself. What about my kids? What can I do? We're here. Give me some practical advice what to do. We're going to give you, inshallah, a few things. Number one here is to, of course, hopefully you saw this coming, show, don't tell. You can lecture hours and hours and hours and say, oh, brothers, can you talk to my kids and make them understand this and that? But when they look up and we're not role modeling a healthy relationship with technology, it's a waste of time, right? So number one is show, don't tell. Number two, recognize needs versus wants. Is this what I'm working on? Is this a need for my work, for school, for learning something critical? Or is it a want? Is it something I enjoy it? And maybe there's sometimes you do things that are wants. That could be okay. But be clear about what that is. Because not everything you do is a need. Number three, it's basically a little strange, a little old school. Nurture a love for literature. If you're not going to the library and getting bags of books with your kids, you're leaving a lot of adventure on the table. You're leaving a lot of bonding on the table. You're leaving a lot of just fun, enjoyment with your kids, right? So literature, books are a wonderful world that we can get enjoyment from. It doesn't have to always be a screen. Number four, and Brother Dr. Ahmed mentioned this, is nurture love for nature. Connecting with Allah's creation is a wonderful prescription for you and for your kids. So I'm a huge proponent. Get out. Connect with the nature. Go camping. Go for a trip. Do that detox in nature, and you're now amplifying the benefits to you and your family. Number five, build on healthy, real-world interests. If my son or daughter says, hey, I want to go to this camp. I want to do this thing. I want to learn how to swim. I want to learn how to do jiu-jitsu. I want to X, whatever it is. And it's a healthy, real-world activity. Hopefully the answer is closer to yes. Because we can't just say, hey, put that down, stop looking at that, turn that off, put that away. With no alternative whatsoever, good luck. It is not going to work. And finally, the question you're going to ask is, okay, can you tell me an age? Give me an age when I give the phone to my kids. And the rule here, the principle is delay introduction to unnecessary technology. So, they'll be maybe the only kid in their class, and there could be 6 years old, they're 7 years old, and the only kid in their class. They're gonna swim upstream. They're gonna get stronger. They're gonna lead from the front, not just follow the herd, right? So I'm not going to give you an age, but I'm going to tell you delay as much as possible to let that prefrontal cortex, as Dr. Howeedy had mentioned, let that grow and strengthen before I hand this over, and now it's going to atrophy over time.
Lastly, also, is of course the most important means we can take are the spiritual means, these prophetic remedies. And number one is that we have to have taqwa with our digital devices. So that means that I have to look at my use of my through my digital technologies, my digital platforms, and I have to say, okay, what here is exposing me to the impermissible, or what type of use is preventing me from fulfilling my obligations to Allah, and I have to take a critical, honest look at that as an adult, and say, okay, if there's something impermissible I'm getting exposed to, or it's preventing me from something obligatory, then I need to make a change. I have to have taqwa with my digital devices, and I have to help my children do that. They're going to need my help. I can't just imagine that a 12-year-old, it's not a matter of trust. It's that there's thousands of psychologists behind that Instagram application who are trying to addict my child to the impermissible. And he's not going to withstand it on his own. So I have to help him also to build some friction, to put some blocks there, to help him not to fall in the impermissible. So number one is we have to have taqwa. The people of taqwa are the people of tawfiq. Allah grants tawfiq. Allah promises everything in this life and the next to the people of taqwa. So that has to be our shield. Number two is we have to have some zuhd. What do non-Muslims call this? Digital minimalism. What do we call this? We call this zuhd. Right? So we have to have some digital abstinence, all right? So I'm going to take to the extent that's necessary. If I know that something has harms, I'm not going to just swim all in it. I take to the extent that's necessary, right? And I use it in a balanced manner, right? In a mature manner, to the extent that I need, okay? So things that are unnecessary, we eliminate, all right, from the digital world. Number three is I have to make a lot of dua. I have to ask Allah to protect me, to protect my children, to protect our communities from mental illness, from depression, from sadness, from the impermissible, right? So if anytime you need anything, you have to go to the one who controls everything. So we have to make dua to Allah in these times, more so than ever, of course, for Allah to protect us and protect our children, right? Number four is there's many things to keep us busy outside of the digital world, and being busy with learning the Quran, learning the Sunnah, and being people of dhikr and remembrance of Allah, that will keep you busy, as busy as you need to be. So our homes, children should see that I'm busy with the Quran, I'm busy with my dhikr and adhkar, and I should engage my children and my family. We're reading Quran together, we're studying the words of Allah together, we're learning about the Sunnah Prophet together, we're making dhikr together, we're singing anashid together. These are things now that will fill this time, and they're not going to want to go, the digital stuff will just be so boring, but this will be so enriching and enlivening, right? And bring my heart to life. And so I have to show my children that in my life, and then engage them through that as well too. Number five, and this is so important, this is critical in our age today, is suhbah. Right? So people are moving to the virtual world, virtual friendships, and it's an empty place. It's a place of sadness, of depression, of anxiety, of eating disorders. That place of having 1 million Facebook followers is a place that leads to sadness and misery. These virtual friendships don't make people happy. They're not fulfilling. What we need to provide for us as adults is righteous suhbah, real companionship, real time spent with brothers and sisters, heart to heart. We have tea together, we go for a walk together, whatever it is, something good, something healthy, we have a halaqah together. These are good things, all right? I have to do that as adults, we need to do that. I have to make time for us, righteous suhbah, right? And for my children, this has to be something I'm consciously thinking about for my child. As a mother and father, we're thinking, what type of good suhbah can we provide for my son? I need to create that for him, because there's so many other people who are trying to vie for his friendship and his heart. I need to create and provide for him good suhbah, real suhbah, okay? So this is important in our time. And number six is, and this comes back to trying to counter multitasking, is to try to practice to be people of hudur, people who they're always in a state of presence with Allah. I have to practice this. And the best place to practice this is with my salah and after my salah. This is a great place where Allah tells you, you have to stop. Keep running, but here now, you've got to stop right here. And stop and take that moment and just try to let your heart quiet down just for a moment. While you're in sujood, just a moment, and just feel the presence of Allah. After your salah, Assalamu alaikum salam. Don't reach for your phone. Don't get up. Just stay there and just make your adhkar. And raise your hands in dua. And try to just be a person of hudur. That Allah, you have the presence of Allah, you feel that in your heart. And let your children see that. Let your children see that after the salah. You don't run up. Mama's right there. Where is Mama? She's like in a happy place. Where is she? Where is Baba? And let them see that in you. And then they're going to want to be that way too. Let other people see that. We have to practice being this way. And non-Muslims will see that, and they'll want to be that way too. And then when you engage and talk to people, they see that hudur when you talk to them. You're not fluttering around looking this way and check. You're with them. You're present in the moment. And they'll see this is something special. So we have to practice being people of hudur. And lastly, and this is what Ustadh Arfan mentioned, is reconnecting with nature. The natural world, Allah created it to be a manifestation of His names and attributes. The natural world, Allah created it so when we connect with it, we connect with Him. And when we disconnect from it, we will disconnect from Him. The direction everybody's going is to the virtual world. We need to now reconnect with the natural world because that's going to help our hearts reconnect with Allah.
So just to close, inshallah, before Q&A, one thing that you're wondering is, what is this thing in front of us that is being covered the whole time? You might not have noticed until I just told you. This is a game. What game is this? This is Jenga. I need 2 volunteers. All right, volunteer number 1, volunteer number 2. Please, come on up. So, what's your strategy here?
Go for the bottom.
Okay, go for the bottom. All right, go. I'm going to narrate. So the point here is he wants to take one of these pieces and put it to the top. Okay?
Go to the bottom and the sides. All right,
Go for it. Go for it. Bismillah. Okay, excellent. Takbir. Allahu Akbar. Excellent. Okay. Please, your turn. All right, takbir. All right, so let's move to the side here. So, what's the point of this game? Strategy. I'm trying to build this tower as tall as possible without what happening? Crumbling. Okay? I want you to take a really risky move here. Super risky. Go.
Not that risky.
And you got 3 seconds. No pressure. 3, 2,
I'm getting it out.
1. That's okay. Pull it out. Wow. Excellent. Takbir. All right, last one. Super risky.
Super risky?
Super.
Not that risky.
Okay. Awesome. Great job. Great job. Round of applause for the volunteers, please. Jazakallah khair. Excellent. Now, I'm going to show you super risky. Ready? Don't worry, I'll clean it up. Don't worry. So the point here, what is the point? Is we can build the tower of benefits. Are there benefits to technology? Of course. Benefits to AI? Of course. Medical breakthroughs, self-driving cars, all these incredible benefits. But if I'm not careful, families crumble. Lives crumble. Minds crumble. And now the whole tower goes down. And so this quote here is great, innumerable benefits, but it doesn't matter how high the skyscraper goes if the foundation collapses. Don't let that collapse for you. Don't let it collapse for your children. Don't let it collapse for your family. So Jazakallah khair. We're going to inshallah now transition to Q&A. We have a few minutes, so please we can open it up.
So we have questions online, but let's take the questions from the room first. Just raise your hand, I'll come over to you with the mic. Where was it go? You had a really good question. I'll come over to you, brother.
Assalamu alaikum. So first of all, I'd like to applaud I think it's a very important topic that you have been covering. And it's not unheard for me. Like my wife is championing the same things. Like I've been seeing all of that at my home, right? So the alarm clock and all that stuff. So that's very good. And I'm seeing like more and more of these things, right? So one of the stuff is like when people create these products, right? So I'm from tech, right? When we do that, we think from the KPIs, right? So what is that metric we want to move, right? So this is what cause addictions, right? You mentioned about whatever technologies, right? So here when I think of Netflix or YouTube, right? It gives you just 10 seconds to decide whether you want to get up or you continue watch that, right? So as if you are here, right, in the Silicon Valley, you'll be talking to a lot of creators, right? So maybe like add some messaging over there that how as a Muslim you should create those products which can not make things like addictive, right? I'm also an author right now. I just gave the copy to the brother, and my book is around data literacy for kids. But again, thanks to my wife, she said, do that screen free. And I was thinking, how do I teach data science without screen? And alhamdulillah, like I was able to do that. Like it's kind of creating bonds with the family, and alhamdulillah, it's doing well. But again, like what we want is we want more creators to know about these things. So it's suggestions and like some thoughts if you want to talk about that.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair, wonderful. I'm very encouraged by what you're doing, your family's doing. This is wonderful to keep, inshallah, leading us there. What I would say is, I was also in the tech world formerly. I was computer science undergrad. I was a programmer. And I'm not into technology. So when we think about having Muslims in organizations that can influence the KPI, right? If the KPI is, I'm going to maximize and monetize attention, then that's going to lead to certain impacts, right? So if we can have ethical, moral Muslims thinking about the 360 picture of what all this is, that's going to help us, help our children, and help our communities get to a better place. So I encourage it. My son loves robotics and putting things together. Wonderful. We're not saying stop that. That's fantastic. Let's think about it 360 degrees.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think we need rational, spiritual Muslims in this space. Because I think we can contribute something wonderful to this space, that these devices, these technologies, even AI, they can do great things for humanity, but with somebody with the right perspective of the dunya and the akhirah. Somebody without that perspective, then things are going to go off. So absolutely, it's a great point, Jazakallah khairan. But I think we do need strong spiritual believers in this space of tech and AI.
Yeah, so I'll add one more point. So I also teach AI to the kids, like I was doing that summer class. And the other day, like there was a 12-year-old girl, and I was talking to her and I asked, how are you using AI? And she said, whenever I feel low, I chat and I say, I'm feeling low. And it gives me all these positive responses. I feel better. And I was shocked. I told that to my wife and we were like her was shocked, right? And then I was teaching another class, another boy, 12-year-old, same response. If I am feeling low, I go and I talk to the bot and it gives me positive responses, right? And he talked about this AI companionship and all that stuff. I think it's gonna go way bad, right? Marriages and whatnot. So I think this is very important. Again, like for our communities, we need to keep talking and have these conversations. So I'll pause here.
Jazakallah khair. Excellent comment, add, and inshallah, it's just so critical because when these are technologies that are not going to ever disagree with you. They're not going to say, stop that, don't. It's going to be encouraging you in a certain direction, whatever the direction is. So again, if I'm going to lean more on technology for companionship, for aiding my loneliness, the question now is, what does that atrophy? When I have a digital alternative that never disagrees, that never pushes back, that never makes me become better. And now I have to deal with human beings, which are finicky, they're disagreeable, they're irritating sometimes. They're not as easy to work with as a machine. So that's going to atrophy my skill to negotiate, resolve conflict, have a conversation, give feedback. These things we learn in corporate America, right? So just something to think about, inshallah. Excellent comment, mashallah. May Allah bless you.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair for the initiative. So my wife got a very critical case. So we agree that the platform is addictive by nature, but the point she brought is that, for example, the atrocities that we're looking at, in Gaza and so on, right? We're getting addicted to that kind of scenery, right? So the drug is in a way something that we want to take in. So from an Islamic perspective, right? If let's assume that's the only outlet, right? Or let's say it's the most accurate outlet, or the most, let's say, traffic-based outlet to be able to perceive that kind of data. From an Islamic perspective, right? How do you batch that sort of behavior, right? And unfortunately, they desensitize us to these kind of sceneries, right? So how do we look at social media, right, as an outlet for that kind of data, in terms of addiction and in terms of zuhd and taqwa? Because at the end of the day, from my perspective as a humble Muslim with a humble knowledge, I would say taqwa is, part of it is to be able to feel my other brother, and that's one way to be able to do that. Given the constraints that we are in as society, the lack of power that we have as an ummah, to be able to kind of release that pressure. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah khair. Allah bless you both. Alhamdulillah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can't deny that social media has been a big driver for bringing awareness to the world, right, of what's been happening, of the genocide to our brothers and sisters in Palestine and elsewhere in the world. I think 2 points we need to recognize here. I think one is we have to realize also what social media is and how these algorithms work. Sometimes they work in your favor, and sometimes they don't. So let's just take another case. Let's go back a few years. The same social media platforms were, the algorithms went the opposite way. These algorithms now, because there's a lot of people viewing it and looking at what's happening in Palestine, and that's been a positive thing, undoubtedly, right? But a few years ago, the opposite happened in Burma and Myanmar. So you can read about what happened, the genocide that happened there. The largest concentration camp in the world right now are the Rohingya refugees in Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, right? Because they had to flee the oppressive Buddhist regime in Burma, in Myanmar. What happened there was they used social media, and it went the other way to drive hate messages of the local populace that started to kill the Muslims there. So the social media algorithms worked against the oppressed in that case, in favor of the oppressor. So that's just an important point. Before we glorify social media, we have to know what really is happening. Okay, that it's just a series of algorithms that's going by what's getting the most traffic and most views. Okay, but it has been undoubtedly brought attention. Now, the other thing that we have to do is we have to remember that yes, I need to be aware of what's going on with my brothers and sisters. This is part of Iman, right? To feel what they're feeling, to be aware of what's going on, to fight for the fight for them, to make dua for them, right? I have to know what's going on. This is part of my Iman as a believer. You're absolutely right. But we have to know now the means of doing that, the means itself has a negative effect on me and my children. So let's say now when I'm not looking at what's happening in Palestine, I'm addicted to this means now. And now it's going to pull me in other things as well. So what I should do to learn about what's happening in the world is I should just batch the times I check what's happening in Palestine. So instead of doing it every 5 minutes, just set a time in the morning where you check what's going on, and in the evening. Or once a day, and that'll probably be sufficient. Once a day, you see what's happening. So that way you can still stay in touch with what's happening and minimize the addictive nature. I think that's the most important way to do that. And with any news or anything you need to check on social media, or anything you need to do on social media. I mean, social media will have many positive uses. Maybe you're a business owner, you need to sell things on Facebook, or right. But I don't have to do that every 5 minutes. Okay. So those 2 points I think just are important. No, just understanding the reality of how these algorithms work, and secondly that I can still batch them and stay in touch with what's going on in the world in a way that minimizes the addictive nature of these devices. Jazakumullah khairan, barakallahu feekum.
And just a quick add there is, reminding myself is after I batch and I'm getting this urge to go back and see what's happened next in the next 5 minutes, is that going to help me become stronger? Is that going to help my brother and sister in Palestine? Is that going to help to bring a stronger ummah when I am being sucked into the black hole of addictions? Exactly. Exactly. So it's something to think about for us, but absolutely, let's be aware. We have to be aware of what's going on, and we have to be intelligent about creating the means of actually relieving suffering. Allah, that's a great question. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you. It made me think that if I'm addicted, right? So as I was listening to you, I'm like, how many times do I check my phone during the day? And so how do you define addiction, right? So maybe I'm addicted. I don't know. I am thinking it's active learning. I am thinking I'm being mindful. I do my namaz 5 times, but I also check my phone. Kids are okay for urgency, etc. So how do I know if I'm addicted, number one? And number two, in your book you talk about privacy and surveillance and Islam, how it says that we should not be suspicious of or manipulate others' information. However, I feel we have evolved as human beings because as I know what you like and as we are interacting, I am feeding or I'm saying things that you can relate to and understand. That creates our bond, right? So I'm using it in a positive way for us to get closer. And government has policies like FCC where private information, every company has to be sensitive how we use the private information. There are lots of rules and policies, it needs to get better, of course, but we are in that stage where we want to use the data for good, right? So how do I say that it's like we are actually manipulating private information, right? Because that's how we are actually evolving as human beings. So it's a question. And,
It's a great question.
so,
I love this. It's a great question. Which one are you talking? Okay. Right. So the believer should not be, as they say, nothing should own him, and he owns things, but things don't own him. So in general, an addiction is something that's going to pull you to behaviors that are unhealthy for you, whether you know them or not. But they're pulling you in a direction that's unhealthy for you. Okay, and it's going to manifest in different ways. One way it's going to manifest is that I engage it and I'm doing something. It's like a hawa, like I'm doing something. I know it's bad for me, but I just can't stop. I can't stop myself. Or when I'm away from this thing that I'm addicted to, then my mood changes, or I feel anxious or nervous, or I reach for this addiction to fulfill an emotional need. Like the brother was saying, I might feel down and I reach for it. That's a sign. These are signs of addictions. Okay, or if I have nothing to do, I can't sit with myself, so I have to go to. Right? These are things we do. So I'm sitting. It's 10 minutes. I'm doing about nothing. So let me see if somebody messaged me. Right? These are all signs of addictions. Okay. So I think if we all took a look at ourselves, we're going to have some level of addictive behaviors. Right? And it's not a perfect thing. We're not looking for perfection in this discussion, because perfection is only for Allah. What we're looking for is progress. Okay. So we all can progress in our connection with Allah. Right? Always. So I have to see. So each of us has to take a hard look at these devices. How are they helping me spiritually or hurting me spiritually? How are they helping my children spiritually or hurting them spiritually? And make a justice as. And everybody's going to be different, okay? I think now for the other discussion, let Ustadh Arfan come in here as well. We didn't really get into as much as we would like. In the book, it has a longer discussion of our data and how it's used. So there's a lengthy discussion in the book about that. But I would say that firstly, that there are things that must be private in your life. You would not live in a home of glass walls and say, but I have nothing to hide. You would not live that way. There are things that must be private, that are meant to be private, okay? And if people know these things about you, some people may use it for good, but others will use it against you. And that's the reality of what's happening. The reality of what's happening is it's being used against. These are the 5 agendas, and the book talks more about it. And a lot of these privacy policies are actually not privacy policies. So this is the smoke and mirrors. Privacy policies, when you agree to them, they're actually, no one reads it, right? Has anybody read a privacy policy? Right? Maybe. Okay, you have. Okay, mashallah. Yeah. So I haven't. So a lot of times, many of them will be how we share your data with third parties, right? So I'll leave it at that and let Ustadh Arfan continue. The book has a lot more discussion on this. So.
Yeah, just a quick guide to two questions, wonderful questions. Number one, how do I know? Addiction is not binary. I'm addicted or not addicted. It's a spectrum. And the question is, am I comfortable with my use of technology given my ambitions and goals in life? And sometimes you may say, you know what, I'm good. I'm fantastic where I am, wonderful. And we're all addicted at some point. At this point, we're probably all of us are addicted. But is it healthy for me right now, given my situation, my family, myself? And is it what I want it to be? Because if I am not improving in all areas of my life, including this area of my life, then I could be leaving a lot of other benefits to the side. For example, if I can't be still, if I can't just be still in my heart, I can't find that happiness, that hudur that Ahmed was talking about, right? So I would just experiment with this. You may think, you know what, I'm good. That's fine. Maybe this could give you a little more ideas. Maybe you can share it with your family and friends. Wonderful. But we're all addicted at some point. It's not just binary, it's a spectrum. And the question is, are you comfortable? If you're comfortable, wonderful. If you want to improve, here's some ideas on that. So that's just something to think about. Second is, in terms of the way of the world, one option is, hey, this is the world we live in. Everyone knows everything. Companies know everything. Government knows everything about me. I'm just going to go because it's all right there. It's right in front of them. I think the problem with the logic in that sort of argument is that there are things we can do. And it's also not a binary, I'm going to do it all, I'm going to be super private in all my interaction with technology, or I'm going to just show it all. There are things we can do to improve, and that's something that's rewardable with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I'm trying to create privacy for the benefit of my family, that's going to be rewarded because you're making effort. You're doing mujahid, that struggle in the right direction. So something to think about, but inshallah, great questions. Alhamdulillah. Allah bless you.
I had a question. What sort of recommendations do you guys have for maybe family members, like young adolescents, teens, who have some, positive outlets, like stuff in the real world, but are also maybe already struggling with addiction to the point where they kind of like throw these kind of teen tantrums whenever they don't get what they want, whether it's like video games, computer games, that type of thing. It can be really difficult to like wean them off like in the moment, even if they've had like a really productive, like eventful day outdoors. So I was just wondering if you guys have any recommendations, whether that's from like a medical perspective, spiritual perspective, or life.
Great question. So a couple ideas here. One is, Dr. Howeedy mentioned, the idea of a detox. Super helpful to have some period of time where you're gradually getting used to not being in front of these technologies. So to go on like a 2-week trip, and you're trying as best as possible to detox, to detach, that's going to help them. Is that going to help them with that tantrum? Probably not, right? But that's going to be something where it's a marathon, not a sprint. I'm going to try over time to have periods of detox that's going to help loosen this grip, this attachment this person has to the technology. That's one idea over long term. In terms of the in the moment, can I give you a silver bullet, a magic pill to stop the tantrum? I can't. But what I can say is we all have at our fingertips ways to learn more about how do I use, this technology, or use behavioral psychologists learn about how do I give rewards and punishments to shape behavior. I can do that. I can shape behavior with my kids too. I can reward and reinforce healthy alternatives over time, and that will help them to, oh wow, Mama, Baba pays attention when I go for a bike ride. Like, great for you. How was the bike ride? Was it fun? Did you have a good time? Also, how's the weather? Okay, they're paying attention when I do something that's a healthy alternative. That's a reinforcer. And over time, if I'm reinforcing that behavior, slowly, it's called extinction. I'm going to go to extinction on the other behaviors that are not as helpful. There's a book I recommend. It's called The Power of Positive Parenting by Glenn Latham. Excellent book on how do I use behavioral approaches to shaping the behavior of my kids over the long term for benefit, for the good. So just something to think about, inshallah.
Add, inshallah, also to Ustadh Arfan. So with children, we kind of, in our minds, we picture children, youth, their addictions at 3 different levels. You have kind of children who have not been exposed yet. So what you try to do is then delay the exposure as much as possible, okay? And just nurture a love for the real world. Jiu-jitsu, activities, swimming, hiking, right? Reading. Then you have maybe kind of in the middle, somebody who, they're productive. They're doing well in school. They go to swim class. But they also, when it's time for video games, like that's their time. And don't interfere with that, and they're kind of in that middle. So for them also, in addition to what the Ustadh mentioned also, is as a parent, I can't unplug that right away. But so learn how to modify the behavior through positive reinforcement of their other healthy screen-free activities. And I need to create some limits. I need to set just some boundaries for their digital use. Okay, so it just can't be an open-ended. I can't unplug right away. I need to just also set some limits and boundaries. Another thing also spiritually that helps, of course, one is making dua. So anything that you want to change in your life, in your spouse's life, in your personal life, in your family's life, if a person, the best thing is to wake up before Fajr for tahajjud and to cry to Allah and make dua to Allah for 40 days. And you'll see then changes happen. And another important thing spiritually is and it kind of builds on what Ustadh Arfan was mentioning, is to make shukr to Allah for the good things you see in that child. Because Allah says, وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ, that when you make shukr for something, Allah increases it. So when He has something good, and I say, Allah, Alhamdulillah, he's doing well in school. Alhamdulillah, Allah, you've given him good company. Allah, Alhamdulillah, he's enjoying his jiu-jitsu class. You'll see then Allah's going to increase in those things. So also making shukr to Allah for the good things that you see in your child. So these are some other things a person can add. The third level of an addicted child would be someone who's kind of like now, they're 8 hours, 10 hours a day on the computer. They don't go out. And for that, what Ustadh mentioned, this person needs to go through a detox. Just like someone who's addicted to drugs, they need to get admitted to an inpatient detox center. Someone like that needs a detox. And they're going to need about at least 2 weeks, like Arfan mentioned. So you're going to have to plan a trip. If you have a child addicted to that extent, you have to plan a trip and go somewhere for 2 weeks, because it takes about that time to detox someone also off certain drugs. The same thing with the brain for digital addictions and internet addictions. During the first week, they're going to hate it. They're going to be so miserable. But then after the first week, you're going to see their brain is going to start to change. Maybe you took them on a park, and the first week they're miserable, and then after the first week, then you see Baba, can we go outside and see the birds? And you're shocked. and you're going to start to see those changes. So those are some general recommendations. Specific recommendations, of course, need some specific advice.
Other questions? We can take some online questions now. There is one question here about further reading. You had mentioned one of the books, The 4-Hour Work Week, and this person is asking if you can give us further reading on these topics.
There's so many. So if you're interested to get a whole list, in the book there's actually references on each page and where the resources are. That's intentional. So if you're interested in privacy, in surveillance, in AI and parenting, all that's referenced in the book. That's probably the best overall resource we can give you. But if there's a specific topic that this person wants, you can just put in the chat and inshallah we'll give you some recommendations right now as well.
Other questions? I appreciate you talking about the dopamine hit, and I remember vividly after college getting my first BlackBerry, and then once I got on the internet, back then we called them the crackberries because how it would change it. But alhamdulillah, with Allah du'as, personally speaking, I've been doing well with my digital diet. But right now, my du'as are consistently about rewiring my brain, which I feel has happened with these shorts, the under 60 seconds or under 3 minutes, and also you can watch YouTube videos, for example, at different speeds, 1.5 or 2, which I was doing for a while until I realized what it was doing to my brain. And I just wondered from that, how do you unwire your brain? Is it detox?
Yeah. Well, that's going to be that's great. So that's going to be one thing, is that we need just like our body needs time where of activity and rest. Right? You can't be awake all the time. You have to sleep sometimes. Just like you have times in the day where you feed your body and times where your body has to be hungry. Okay, so the same thing. So the brain can change just by small habits that you do consistently. Right? Now, sometimes I need to do some big things. Like we said, someone just has a severe addiction. I need to take a 2-week, practically for all, working professional, you might not be able to do that. And that's not necessarily needed. But what helps to reinforce the positive, healthy dopamine release and neural pathways in the brain are healthy behaviors, small, consistent, healthy behaviors you do on a daily basis. Okay? So it could be as simple as when I wake up in the morning, I don't check my phone in the morning, and I make wudu, I pray tahajjud, 2 rakat tahajjud, I pray fajr, and I have now, this is a sacred time that I'm going to train my brain to sit, not look at a screen, and just do my adhkar of sabah after salah for 10-15 minutes. And it doesn't take long, it doesn't take much, but 10-15 minutes of just sitting, and there's no screens, there's no distractions, that training over time will reshape and reheal the brain. Okay, the times for my salah, when I stopped at the salah, same thing. That's a moment where I'm going to stop. I'm not going to have my cell phone in my pocket, because again, I'm going to itch for it. I'm going to just sit and pray and take 5 minutes for dhikr and dua after, right? And I have to build in some other things, like walking. Walking is an excellent way to heal the brain. It's a great exercise, but it's an excellent way to heal the neural pathways of the brain and the neurochemicals, of resetting their neurochemicals. And also when I go out on a walk, so I should build in a walk in my day sometime. Post Fajr, before Maghrib, somewhere I should get out and walk 15-20 minutes. And when I'm walking, I should also actively move my eyes to look at things. Look at the trees, count some leaves, look at the clouds. I need to be moving my eyes and connect my eyesight to things at different distances in the natural world. Those have a healing effect on the brain. Just looking at nature. And also studies have shown even just people who spend more time in nature, they have more emotional intelligence. They have better memory. They have more focus. There's a natural healing component Allah's placed associated with nature. And then on the other side is some of the things we've talked about. Is I need to now batch and compartmentalize my digital tasks and just be aware of how I engage in things. Definitely, I mean, that's something we see oftentimes, is like, listening to something at a fast pace. And sometimes, you might be like a student in college and you've got, 18 credits, and, I can understand. Aside of that, if I don't have a need for that, I want to just habituate myself to just take things take things at a slower pace. My speech, listening to things, right? And last I would say is that we give that we built in our time is some reading from a book. Everyone knows what a book is, right? So reading from a book, and almost take it as a medicine. So even for myself, I do a lot of work on the computer, but I do it just for that specific purpose. Is I'll just have some time in my morning of just 10-15 minutes of just reading maybe 5 pages a day from a book, just for that specific purpose. So these are just small daily habits that a person can build in, and that's enough to rewire the brain. Lastly, 2 last things, we do mention in this book, is nutrition. I need to give my body and my brain the building blocks to heal and recover. So our diet plays a big role in our digital addictions. And so there's this whole section in the book about that, for that purpose. So foods, if I'm eating foods high in sugar, high in refined carbohydrates, in vegetable oils, inflammatory type foods, these are going to work against me. It'll weaken my brain. I'll be more susceptible to mental illness and digital addiction. So I need to also feed my brain foods that strengthen it and give it more mental resilience. And lastly is to give myself time in my week, at least 3 times in my week, of intense physical exercise. Intense physical exercise, when you're, if you have to strain to do like 30 push-ups, it's really tough to think about anything else. Those last 5, and you're like, it's tough. You're not thinking about anything else. If you're straining to lift some weights, at that moment, it creates a natural focus in your brain. And that focus will carry over in your dhikr, in your salah. So these are important things in the digital age. Also, is some intense physical training 3 times a week, inshallah ta'ala. And these small habits throughout the week will reshape the brain in a positive way. Jazakallah khair. Allah bless.
Assalamu alaikum. So I have a few questions. It's more of a, I feel that I'm addicted. And first of all, even we have been given, in our company, the Slack channel, the Outlook, we have to regularly check, and we need to be on top of it. Anything comes in the message or anything, manager comes, sends out any message, you need to reply immediately, or somebody in your group. So that is, we have to be always connected. That's the first thing. Second thing is YouTube videos. I am kind of addicted to Umar Sulaiman, Yasir Qadi, all those lectures. Even when I'm driving to office in the morning, I will turn it on. When returning back, I'll turn it on. Lot of dua, azkar, and Quran is there on my mobile phone. I cannot live without that, because even if I sit there, I need to do Surah Kahf, I have to recite it using my phone. In a dua azkar, in the after namaz, even prayer, we have to go through those apps and a lot of things. I cannot memorize a lot of duas, so I have to go and read through them. And AI actually helped me in one sense, Alhamdulillah, Allah gave me a chance to go to Hajj this year. So in there, I needed some dua, though I have, I feel that if I ask AI, and if it gives me nice, the good ways, some duas, for Palestine, it actually created nice dua for me. And I was asking Allah when I was doing tawaf, I was doing sa'i, I was going through those. I'm not sure how much. And this is how can, in the tahajjuds, and you mentioned that don't do any, screen time. But, in tahajjud, right after tahajjud, if I do some Quran, because the Quran has so many, you have to, the translations, so many different types of translations. And also, tafsir, everything is together in that app. The dua azkar is there. And that is one. So, and of course, Gaza war and others on the YouTube channel. So, and on top of it, my kids, they are present here. Few of them, when they study, they have to listen to music. I said, no. But he said, no, I cannot focus on my study if I not listen to music. So I don't know how can I So if you can, give us some advice on that.
Jazakallah khair for sharing with us also your experiences. Your experiences we're all going through. What you mentioned are things we're all going through as well. So I think from a work standpoint, I remember I was just smiling when you were saying that you have to be connected. I wasn't laughing. I was smiling at an instance I had. I was starting to kind of batch my emails. So somebody, I was working in one clinic facility, and their main mode of communication with the directors was email, and you had to check your email literally every 5 minutes. So, working there in 3 months, I was addicted. It was just like, then I had to change things. And so I remember somebody emailed me like at after hours, like 6 p.m. And so it wasn't an urgent thing, and I knew I was going to see him in the morning, so I just said, I'll talk to him when I see him in the morning. So it's funny. So I see him in the morning, and then he says, "Is everything okay between us?" I said, "Yeah, everything's fine." He said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I emailed. I didn't hear from you. I thought maybe you're upset with me." So no, I knew I was going to see you today. So yeah, I was just laughing, So there's this culture. You're right, absolutely, in the corporate world sometimes of always being connected and replying right away. But I think you can batch those communications to whatever extent you feel necessary, but just don't leave it open-ended. So if your batching of your communications has to be on the hour, so be it. That's healthier than unchecked. Right? So just create a time where I'm going to, and I would think, if you had to do it on the hour, people would probably feel you're still responsive enough. I would think, right? Again, somebody might have exception, but so I would still create a schedule, as frequent as that needs to be, but that's still healthier than not having one. Okay, so that's how I would say how I deal with the corporate world. And sometimes it gets to the point where then people start to have an expectation and understand how you respond. And I had to also teach, kind of build that in with people around my network, that they start to learn, okay, I respond in a certain way in a certain time frame. But I would say that firstly, okay? Secondly, absolutely, so I have an iPad. There's an app here that I use, has all the tafsir works, all the works of Nahw and grammar, all that, right? It's just great. I can search one thing and find everything. So use that technology. That's good. But what I have to do is just give my brain time away from that also. So I can't be on this every moment I need to look at the Quran. That's going to hurt me. Sometimes I just need to hold the physical Quran. So what I would advise for all of us is that we have sometimes where actually I'm holding a physical Quran. Okay, it's different. And also the Adhkar al-Sabah al-Masa, I can get them in a book. And I would just keep that with me at all times. So I would say just build these things in, utilize these applications for your learning and things, but have a sacred time that's away. And you can get all those resources in a book format, and that'll just be much healthier for you. And I think you will feel something different spiritually. And last thing, I'll pass it to Arfan just about the wonderful videos that we see from the beautiful mashayikh online. A great thing you can do that we started doing is just download the audio and listen to the audio. Maybe from your phone, maybe whatever it is. But just download the audio. You can download if it's a YouTube video, you can download the audio from that. And so it's not a visual thing and you're listening. That's a lot healthier for you. Okay, so you can still benefit from all these great lectures. Or if you can't even do that, maybe you might have an option where you can minimize it or not see it, and you're just listening to it. Okay, that'll be much healthier for you, inshallah ta'ala. Please, yeah. Oh, okay, we'll pause for a minute.
So one of the harms of continuously listening the lectures, I think there is desensitization there also. If you want to actually learn, I think active learning involves note-taking. That is active learning. Otherwise, we are just faking that we are learning, but not really. So that is something to keep in mind, yeah.
I'll just add one more reference. There's a series of books by an author called Cal Newport. One is called Deep Work. And the idea there is, over time, the most productive people are people that can focus. And if I'm now on call, if I'm an ER doctor, that's different. If I'm on call as a knowledge professional, a tech worker, and I'm on call every 5 minutes, it's very hard to have breakthrough thinking. entrepreneurs and CEOs go off on 4-week retreats with several books, and they're doing deep tadabbur, thinking, reflecting. Why are we here? What should we do next? What's the strategy? 3 or 5 year strategy? All that becomes more helpful when I'm not inundated by stimulation. So just think about that in terms of someone's going to say, why? What's he doing? He's getting these great ideas. He has time for reflection. He's opening some space for thinking about the future, not just reacting to the moment. So someone to consider, inshallah.
Yeah, there was a comment also just for maybe when we're doing work and listening to music or something, listening to anashid or listening to something. So we have to just remember that what we talked about multitasking, that I'm going to be less efficient the more tasks I'm trying to do at the same time. So I might feel that I'm focusing more. I'm going to be less efficient. Now, if I've habituated myself to do that behavior, eliminating that in the beginning is going to feel very uncomfortable. So definitely, there's going to be a period where I feel uncomfortable. I feel lack of focus. That's just my brain just resetting. But if I can just do one thing at a time, I'll be more efficient, retain more information, and be much more effective also in my learning and acquisition of information and knowledge. So that's just something that's important to note as well too.
Okay, mashallah. Any more questions? Okay, I think we're pushing against the Isha. May Allah bless you both for the work you're doing. Very insightful, topical issues that we talked about. If you could end us in dua, that would be great.
Bless all of you also for your beautiful participation, insight, and thought and comments. And we'd love to stay in touch with you, inshallah ta'ala. If any of you would like to share emails, we can stay in touch, inshallah ta'ala. We have a similar program tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala, I believe at MCA, inshallah ta'ala. So barakallahu feekum. We'll close in dua. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. Allah, we praise you, Allah, and we thank you, Allah, for bringing us together this Mubarak place, Ya Rabbil Alameen, to remember you and our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Allah, we ask you to send your peace and blessings on our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah, we ask you to fill our hearts with love for you, love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, love for the awliya, love for the akhirah. Allah, we ask you to grant us tawfiq in our ability to worship you and to remember you and to get close to you and close to the Prophet ﷺ. We ask you to help us to purify our hearts and prepare our hearts for the meeting with you. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بُنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Allah, grant us that salim qalb, that pure heart when we meet you, Ya Rabbil Alameen, for us and our children and our families. Allah, we ask you to protect us from the fitan of our age. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect us from the harms of the age that we live in, from the harms that we've discussed of these digital devices and media, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect us from the distractions, Ya Allah, that distract us from you. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect us and our families and our children. Ya Allah, we ask for anybody who's suffering from depression or anxiety, Allah, we ask you to heal their heart and heal their mind, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah, we ask you for anybody who has a need, Ya Rabbil Alameen, to fulfill their need, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah, ask you to anybody who's suffering from an addiction, Ya Rabbil Alameen, to cure their addiction and heal their addiction, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Or anyone who's sick, to grant them shifa, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Or anyone who's passed, Ya Allah, we ask you to grant them mercy and acceptance and rida, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah, ask you to lift the suffering and hardship from our brothers and sisters in Palestine and Sudan and Kashmir and Afghanistan and Myanmar and China and Yemen and all of the Muslim world, Ya Rabbil Alameen. We ask you to donate the reward of this measures to them, Ya Rabbil Alameen, and grant them, make it a means to grant to their victory, Ya Rabbil Alameen, and their happiness, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah, we ask you to grant us a good ending in this life. Allah, give us goodness in this life and afiyah in this life and the next, Ya Rabbil Alameen. We ask you to forgive us for all of our sins and forgive our parents and our teachers and our offspring. Allah, just as you brought us together here in this Mubarak place on this Mubarak evening, remembering you and our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we ask you to reunite us and bring us together with you and with him and the righteous and the salihin and our family and friends in Jannat al-Firdaus, Ya Rabbil Alameen. وَمَاذَا لَكَ عَلَّهُ بِعَزِيزٍ وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ سُبْحَانَكَ اللَّهُمَّ وَبِحَمْدِكَ نَشْهَدُ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنتَ نَسْتَغْفِرُكَ وَنَتُوبُ إِلَيْكَ اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خيرا. بارك الله فيكم. جزاكم الله خيرا.